My name is Ariana Greene.
And how do you know me?
You are my sister-in-law. The
Yeah,
best.
poor you.
No.
And where are we right now?
We are in our church gym, First Baptist Newland.
Ah. And for those who don't know where Newland is, like maybe who are in different parts of the world, like the nation or different countries, could you just explain a little bit about, North Carolina, where we're at in North Carolina, what this area is kind of like in your experience?
It is a small mountain town, very, very
Yeah.
small, um, tight-knit community. There's about 17,000 people here. Um, I don't really know how do you explain
Yeah.
where we're
Do
at.
you what do you do here in Newland? Like what's your life like? What's your job? Do you have friends? That kind of thing.
So I have been a teacher for the last 3 years. So I taught at Avery County High School. Now I am the youth and children ministry director here at this church.
Yeah.
Um, I do have friends.
What sort of stuff do you like to do if you like had it your way? I know that you're really busy these days, but like what sort of stuff makes you have fun?
My favorite day is Sunday, and that's because I, right now, have been watching football. I don't know if I'll get to watch that anytime soon, but watching football and hanging out with my youth kids and my
Yeah.
husband. So that's
Yeah.
that's a good day for me.
So in this room, there's a bunch of stuff sitting on tables. You want to tell me what this is?
Yes, this is kind of a hub. This is a food distribution setup that we have going on for Hurricane Helene relief. Um, my husband and I and our family, we lost our home during the hurricane, and we actually are sheltering in place here. And we really recognize the need of the community. There are people displaced from their homes, people whose homes are completely gone. There's people out there that we don't even know that they're out there. And the community reached out to us because it is a small town. We were able to get in contact with our sheriff, and he asked if we could use these facilities. And because we were sheltering in place here, we took it over. We kind
Yeah.
of got this started, and we were happy to because, again, this is our community. These are our people, and we wanted to do whatever we could to help them. And this was our way of being able to do so. And it's kind of taken off, and it's getting more and more efficient, and we're really reaching a lot of people and starting to feel, I don't know the right way to say it, starting to feel like we're progressing,
Making a
trying to
difference?
make a difference. Well, yeah, I feel like we're making a difference in this, and um, trying to reach those people that we're so worried about. Just
Yeah.
wanting to get them the food they need, the
Yeah.
toiletries they need.
Well, I was going to say, it's not just food. I was actually, as someone who had been um, aware of how dire the situation was, didn't know what to expect. And I think it was actually a cousin of ours, Ariel, who sent me a photo from somebody who sent her a photo showing me all these tables. And it allowed me to sort of rethink, okay, what do I bring? Because nobody in Newland who can get to this building is going to starve, is what it feels like. Nobody who can get to this building is going to like go without being able to brush their teeth.
Mm-hmm.
No puppy is going to die because their family can't take care of them. So it was a huge relief. That's a funny word to use with this stuff, to see it. But you said you were sheltering in place here at the church.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to maybe, I know that's a hard thing to kind of talk about, but maybe tell the story of how you got to be sheltering in place at the church?
Yeah, I mean, we knew that the storm was coming.
Yeah. Could you talk about how did you know that the storm was coming? Had you heard before the storm got here? Like honestly.
Well, first of all, my husband is really into the weather. So it's kind of like his daily thing to inform me about what weather's coming. So I was very informed on the low pressure system. Is that right? The low pressure system that we were in, and um, I knew it was coming that way because he's very educated on that and had let me know. And so um, they have been our family have been talking about how there was a big flood in 2004 or something like that.
Yeah.
And we have this really beautiful creek that ran beside our house, and they talked about how that would raise to what we call that low bridge. It's kind of hard to explain the dynamic
Yeah.
of the
Maybe I should just tell people that you all were in the process of renovating a home, getting a home ready to move into, and like
mm,
several other things going on. And you had been living with your in laws, winky
yeah,
winky, my mom and dad, Julian's mom and dad. And maybe we should tell them that the only way to get to the house was across the bridges. Is that
yeah. I
fair to
think
say?
no, I think that's important because it's part of the reason that we had went over to the cabin, Fred
Yeah.
and Russell's beside of us, just for overnight because we were afraid that one of the bridges were going to flood. We
Yeah.
weren't afraid that our house was going to flood. We were like, oh, we know that this is raised to a bridge before. We might just be stuck for a day or so, and
Yeah.
that seemed uncomfortable. Like we don't want to have to risk that. So, um, yeah, so we were aware of the storm. We knew that the low bridge might flood. So we went over to the cabin across the way, which is our aunt and uncle, Freda and Russell. Um, and we packed a bag. Um, I grabbed my locket for my daughter and, two changes of clothes because I was like, okay,
Yeah.
I just need something for the next day. We went over there and we just stayed the night, and we were just it was kind of weird. We were like waiting with anticipation. Like I don't know. I felt like I couldn't wait to see the creek rise
Yeah.
that much because I thought it was, I mean, this is so terrible to say now, but it would be cool to see the creek rise that much. And
You also used to be a science teacher, so maybe you're a
yeah,
little nerdy about it.
yeah,
I think that that's totally relatable. Like, there's natural phenomena that if you feel as if it's safe, like a little bit scary is kind of fun. Like when a big thunderstorm comes in the summertime, and you're like, oh, let me just sit on the porch and be kind of scared by the thunder. As long as you feel like it's probably going to be safe. I
yeah,
definitely relate to that feeling, especially at the house that you're talking about, our grandma's house.
yeah. And I,
Um,
I will say, like, watching the beginning of the storm, it was beautiful. I mean,
yeah.
and that's crazy to say now, knowing the destruction and chaos that is caused. But it was very cool to like sit out there and see the wind and the rain. But now knowing how devastating, it seems really like terrible to
Yeah,
say that it was cool. But you're right, like it was just we were intrigued by it, and
totally.
again thought that we were safe. We thought the water was just gonna raise a little bit and we'd be back in our house, but that is not what happened. We woke up Friday morning. The low bridge had flooded, and it was actually getting to what we called the high bridge, which they said they had never seen it flood
Mm.
that. And we're like, oh wow, like this is something new. Again, still not afraid, not afraid. We were still just amazed by what was going on outside. We were staying put. We were like, we don't need to evacuate or go anywhere.
Because that house has
Um,
been there 65 years. It survived floods.
Yeah. I think that's another thing, and maybe this is, I'm sure a lot of areas have this, but so many home places, home stakes, is that the word I'm looking for? So,
Homestead.
homesteads, that's what I'm looking for. So many homesteads around here have been handed down generation over generation.
mm,
So you were just, as I understand it, what I would have been going on is what my granny told me when she lived in that house. And so we probably thought we knew what was going to happen. So you went over to Freda and Russell's,
mhm.
your aunt and uncle, and also your neighbors across the creek, and just slept over there for a night to be safe, and then came back across the bridges to like live your day at the original house.
So I had started at Thursday night, where so we had ended up staying 2 nights at Fredda's and Russell's because
Hmm.
Wednesday night we weren't. Hurricane Helene was not supposed to be there, right? Am I right about that?
Yeah, I think it arrived Thursday night.
And so Wednesday, it had just came a downpour, and we saw the creek start to flood then, but then it definitely receded, like it was going down. And yes, we had went back across, lived our day. We went to the Y, worked out. We were again that anticipation, like, oh, the storm's coming. Let's get some snacks. Like we got Oreos and all kinds of things like that. Like we were kind of ready to just watch. But then Thursday night is when, yes, I had packed the locket in another bag, and we went back over there because we knew it had rose the night before. And again, nothing too crazy there, but the low bridge had
Yeah.
flooded. But Friday morning was different after it had arrived, and we were sitting there watching it, and my husband had actually went to tie up the
Oh, the
camper
camper.
to
Yeah.
he changed it to a tree because we saw it starting to rise towards it, and so we were like, we probably should secure that. And it was while he was out there, um, he noticed it started raising like pretty quickly. I was just out on the porch again watching everything, and he said, "Oh my God, we got to go." I'm a pretty anxious person anyway, so I hear that, and my little sister's with us as well because she had came up. They had canceled school, and so
Yeah.
she was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna come stay up there with you guys," and we didn't think anything of it. Um, and I tell her to grab her stuff, and ran, we ran to the truck, and Julian's yelling at everyone, like, "We gotta go, we gotta go," and we see the water just right. Well, first of all, we saw trees coming down, and it ended up knocking down our garage that we had, and the water just rose so quick, feet in seconds. It
Mm.
was a flash flood, and just all happened so quickly, and we were really scared. I remember I was crying. I didn't know
Yeah.
what was going to happen, and we had cars in front of us, so we were just really stressed about, are we going to even get out of here
Yeah.
okay? And we went to the Rock Gym, which is a shelter that they have here, um, and we were there for maybe 2 or 3 hours. We had a lady come in who thought she was having a heart attack, and
Wow.
obviously the situation is very alarming to everyone, and we're trying to treat her and make sure she's getting comfortable, and there's probably 30 other people in there
Wow.
who have similar stories. And this is just our little community that we're in right there, our little neighborhood, and they are talking about how their homes are gone, that they just watched their home wash away, that they don't know where their dad is, that they don't know if they grabbed their wallet, just little things like that, because it happened so quickly and unexpectedly. I guess unexpected in the way of no one was really prepared for how terrible that
Yeah.
it was. And we stayed at the Rock Gym for a little while, and the church is very close to there. Um, and the church is my second home. I'm here all the time, and we could walk here. But we ended up driving here once the weather had stopped, and we got here, and fortunately, we were able to make my little office a little dorm room, and we've been staying here, and so that's how we ended up here, sheltering in place. And then from that, we wanted to do something,
Yeah.
and this was born.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a few things in there. Like, I can't imagine sitting on the other side of. I want to point out that you call it the creek because normally it's just, I won't call it like a trickle, but it's very, very low. And like, even when the water's risen, I don't think we've ever thought about it as a river. But I've heard you and the family say the river came down quite a bit. And then the debris that came down with it. I remember y'all saying that was it trees that like bumped into the upper garage?
Yeah, like 10, 12 foot. How tall would you say those trees were? They're, I mean, they're,
50-foot trees.
oh gosh,
Just
I don't even know the
Jeez. Yeah.
giant trees that had been alive for hundreds of years, and
Yeah.
they're just gone, and they're tumbling down the river at us, towards us. And that was the scariest moment of all of it, is seriously how quickly that happened, um, and not knowing what to do really in that moment. And fortunately, Julian was of a mind to tell us to get out of there, because I would have just probably stood there and watched it, just because it was something I'd never seen before, could have expected. So, but
Yeah.
yeah, that was terrifying. Just watching those trees like literally do cartwheels
Yeah.
down the river at that point. And yeah, that's what collapsed into our garage, which then collapsed into the house. And then all of the water rushed into our
Wow.
home. Yeah, it never crossed my mind to grab things that were of importance. I mean, luckily I wear this every day.
Yeah.
And my wedding ring, those things that are so important to me. I literally packed pajamas and gym clothes and work clothes for the next day. Um, so I have thought about that quite a bit. Is like, I should have grabbed this. I should have grabbed that. I can't think of anything like right now off the top of my
Yeah.
head, but definitely the fact that I was right there, um, and I could have, but I just really wasn't expecting it to be anything. We were
Yeah.
expecting to see the creek rise, and we saw our home get destroyed, and that you don't know how to prepare for.
Yeah.
So I just don't even know how I don't know. That was hard.
You all seem to, I'm sorry, I'm going to go a little deep, and if you don't want to keep it in, we'll cut it out. But I'm just going to ask you honestly. Um, Obviously, since then, a lot has happened, and today is. Oh, I should have told everybody to start with that we're filming this at like midnight. It's like 11:30 here in Newland. We just had this idea, and the days are so incredibly busy, but you've only had, so Thursday night is when Helene hit, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. It's been 4 days, 5 days as of now. Which in context, all the tables sitting behind you are very impressive, all told. But yeah, how does that feel to not have a home base, really? You don't really have like a comfort spot to go back to, or do you feel like your office is fulfilling that for you right now?
My office is not fulfilling that for me right now.
Oh,
I This sounds very corny, but having Julian, he's my safe place. You don't have to keep that in. That's very corny. But that is reassuring, but this is not our home. It's not where we can lay our head down at night and feel safe and, comfortable. There's always the fact that this is a huge building, and, anyone could come in here. And that's kind of unnerving, having your own home place. You feel safe there.
mm,
And I'm so grateful to be able to shelter in place here. I hope that I don't sound like I'm not grateful for that, but it's not your home.
yeah,
It's not where I feel like I can take my shoes off and jump in bed and breathe for the day. At the end of the day, I just haven't settled down yet. And
yeah,
I'm so grateful to have him. So that's helpful. But I hate that we don't have somewhere right now to just be. And that's the only way that I can put it right now. I don't have the words to really
yeah,
describe it, but
And folks have offered us to stay places. I mean, folks in the community have been awesome, but it wouldn't change that. It would
yeah,
still be
ex-
somebody else's space. I'm uncomfortable.
exactly. It's that uncomfortable, and almost I feel like a burden. Like I
mm,
feel kind of, this is the place that I work, and I know that, this congregation loves me, my pastor loves me, and they would willingly let me stay here, and have offered me to stay with them. But it's that fact that it's not comfortable, and I feel like I am a burden, and that
mm,
I'm overstaying my welcome. And so that's just a lot of pressure and anxiety that I've been carrying with me too. Is like, okay, we have to get out of here, because I feel like I am
mm.
doing something wrong by being here, or it's
Yeah.
it's just really, there's a lot of anxiety in it.
I
And so
think a lot of people would relate to that, even in less dire circumstances. I think there's this sense of like, I'm not supposed to be here. I wonder a little bit if there's something about staying here that feels like, oh, I have a purpose. Am I putting words in your mouth by saying that?
no, absolutely not. I think that's how I've been getting through the days. And that's something that I've talked to other people about. I could easily go sit in my office and cry all day. I mean, because trust me, I want to. But being able to serve in here, being able to just talk with the people who walk through these doors really gives me a purpose right now. And I think that's what I need in order to make it through the next hour, the next day. And that's where we're at here, is we're just trying to make it through the next couple of hours, next days, because we're so unsure. Everything about our future is uncertain right now. And so the only thing we can do is hold on to each other. And so this is allowing me to hold on to as many people as I can, and let them know that I love them and that I'm here for them and that I'm riding through the storm with them.
Yeah.
Um,
Could you talk to me about I imagine it being a blur. I walked in today. I arrived in Newland, I think like 12:15, 12:30 today, and it was bustling. We didn't even like have a chance to talk cuz y'all were running around and getting people coordinated. Like what time did the days start? What does it look like? Are there waves? Who's helping you? That kind of thing.
so since I'm staying here, I get up around 7 and I try to get ready, whatever that is, with just like getting some shoes on, basically, because that's all I really got to change with. But I will come out here and I'll try to we set up a little entry station here. And I try to get things ready for my volunteers because I want things to go as smooth as possible for them. They get here around 8. That's the goal, is to have volunteers here at 8. We
That didn't
open.
happen though.
Yeah, that has not happened.
Can I
Obviously, everyone's going through their own stuff,
Yeah.
but
Can I ask about volunteers? Like, are these church members or where do those come from? How do you find volunteers?
that has been really complicated trying
Yeah.
to figure out how to tell people we need help. We've been going to our Emergency Operations Center. EOC is what I'll refer to it as.
Nice.
We've been going up there, and they have told their responders that are in that room, because communications have been down. Like, there's not been a
Yeah.
way to really spread the word that we need volunteers. So they have gotten some responders. Is that the right way to say that? They've kind of spread it up there at their meetings. I don't know how.
I honestly feel like, and they've done a great job of helping us when we need it. But I honestly feel like most of our volunteers are folks in the community who have heard by word of mouth, or folks from off the mountain who know people up here
Mm-hmm.
and are just trying to help and get directed here by EOC.
Yeah, I think it definitely has been at first coordinated by the EOC as far as getting them here. And now that communications have restored, it certainly has started to spread in the community through social media and definitely word of mouth. But it certainly is community members, some of our church members here, even some of my cheerleaders. I'm the cheerleading coach at the high school. Even some of them and their parents have showed up. So it's definitely a community supporting each
Yeah.
other. But it has been amazing also to see people from all over the place who are just like, hey, I'm here. What can I do to help you? I don't want you to think that you're alone. And just hearing them say that is important, because it does very much feel like we are alone. Like, we're just a small mountain town. What do people care? Like, what are we really to
Yeah.
them? And so to hear people say that has been amazing. So
Something that I realize we didn't mention that I think has been really huge and maybe puts in context how crazy it is that you're at where you're at on day 5. I think I've got this timeline right. I'm hoping y'all will correct me if it went differently. And I think it was this way for most of Appalachia that was hit in WNC. But Helene hit, and then most people had power outages on Friday, the morning after,
Thursday morning, or I mean Thursday evening.
as early as Thursday evening. So power went out. Water went soon after for us in Asheville. When did your water go out for most people?
I'm trying to think on that. I would say for sure Friday. I know for sure Friday morning.
Yeah.
I remember waking up and them telling me that we didn't have water. And not to flush the toilets and
It come
that
on
we could.
one time, and we all were like, let's go pee right now.
Yeah, it was like, yeah, we had like one flush left, and everyone was like, "Go ahead and go do it," because we don't know when we'll be able to again, because we hadn't got the buckets of water. We didn't, again, we weren't thinking to get buckets of water or anything like that ready. So definitely Friday morning, as early as 5 a.m., the water was out, I
Yeah.
would say.
And I feel like people hear, "Oh, there was a flood," and, "Oh, we're out of water," and they seem sort of like they're at odds. But it's not like you're gonna go to the creek turned river, and that's not like drinking water, right?
No, no, not at all. And it is, yeah, it's filthy water. It's murky, muddy.
Yeah.
There's so much debris in it. So yeah,
I
no,
think I
definitely not.
heard it was my mom who said, "Yeah, I think our propane tanks are floating around in there." And we were trying to think of what to bring y'all. And I was like, "What can I bring them that filters out propane from water? I don't know how to make that potable for them." So, electricity out as early as potentially Thursday evening,
Mhm.
water out as early as Friday morning.
Oh yeah.
And then I know that the last correspondence I got from Newland was maybe Friday midday for a phone call. Do you all remember when your cell service went out?
I think that I remember we got to the rock gym at 11 because we had all talked about, oh, the rain's going to stop at 12. And we were like, we thought we had survived the storm, right? And nothing
Mm,
bad was going to happen to the house. And I remember it was like 11:18 when we fled. So I think we got to the rock gym 11ish, and I know right after that he called you, so
mm,
it was probably noon,
yeah.
and that was when our service was gone. Like you were the last call out for that.
How strange that you were my last call and I was your last call. And that photo came through earlier before that. So Thursday, Friday, you lose power, aka Wi-Fi, water, and then quickly thereafter cell service. You just talked about how this is a small mountain town and it's so isolated. It feels like it just got so much more
Mhm.
isolated. Um, how did I want to go back to what it looks like during a day? I interrupted you, but how did stuff start to happen with no cell service? How did people get information? Obviously, you were just here in this building. What sort of transpired from your point of view?
Well, when you just asked me that about what the communication was like, I want to say that there was none. Is what it
Ah,
felt like. I mean, we got to the rock gym and there was a wonderful gentleman there. I can't his name's I'm forgetting his name right now, but
Jason Cole.
we thought he was with Red Cross, and it turns out he just worked for the county, I think in the health department, and he had just been assigned to go there. And I say that because it was very apparent that he did not have enough resources for the amount of people who were coming in. He was by himself.
wow.
Um, he was doing great, the best that he could, but the gym floors were soaking wet because the roof was leaking in that location. There weren't enough cots for everybody. There weren't enough blankets. We had a woman come in who thought she was having a heart attack. There was no like medical staff there. We had to go into the office and find a first aid kit, and that first aid kit barely had anything in it. So he just didn't have the stuff that he needed. She was bleeding, and I had to apply pressure on her wound for about an hour after finding whatever, material we could inside of that first aid kit. And he just didn't have anything. And we had tried to get in contact with the EMS 911, and it took about an hour and a half for them to get there. And that wasn't on their part. The roads were, they couldn't get to us. There were trees already down in the way. And that was where it got even scarier for me, is because I was like, how many people are in situations like this right now and help can't get to them? And that was really, really devastating for me. And I was happy that I was able to be there to help that lady, but I'm not trained in how to help her medically, but I was willing to get in there and do what I could. But I just think about how many people were probably calling them, and they couldn't get there because there were trees in the road or landslides happening or the wind, just all of these things stopping them. So
Yeah.
that's
And I think it's funny because people think about rural places, and I don't know. When people say rural, I'm from a rural place. You and I both are from a rural place, so we kind of get it a little bit differently. But I think a lot of people picture like farmland or something like sprawling acres.
yeah.
You happened to have been living pretty close to like quote unquote downtown. Like you could get around on foot if you needed to, if there wasn't a huge river in the way.
Yeah.
But so many people are not in a place where there's a shelter. And yeah, that so the isolation just deepens. That's crazy.
Mhm.
So I want to jump back to so in a normal day,
Mhm.
you wake up early, you do all your getting ready with your shoes and your
Yeah.
laces, and volunteers are intended to show up at 8.
Yes.
Talk to me, but be honest. Like, are they just maybe like not? What? Why do you think it's not always on time?
I think that there is such a need in the community right now, and I'm grateful that people are doing this. I think they have things they need to deal with themselves as well. Um, some of the people that are coming to volunteer here have small children at home. So obviously they need to make sure that they're okay. And things are still not settled here. Like we're still hearing about landslides, mudslides, all of these things happening. And so I'm sure they're nervous
People are
leaving.
putting off pumping their basements, pumping water out of their basements to come here and volunteer.
Yeah. And so there's uncertainty there. And so I feel like it is probably they are just making sure if they have their home base that they'll be okay. There will be one to come back to. And I think that's totally fair. But that's where my head's at, where I think they're putting themselves first. And right now, I understand that. I get that. Um, but they are coming. It's just not at the time that we wish. Like this morning, I had two people here at like 8:15, and then right at 9, which is when we do let people in, I got an influx of people. But that is a little difficult when coordinating things because we're not on like a clear we're not on the same page, and it gets a little confusing and really overwhelming when trying to get people to where they should be to make it efficient. So
Okay.
that's the idea. Get them here at 8, but they
And what
show
do
up whenever.
volunteers do? Sorry for
No,
interrupting
no,
you.
no.
What do the volunteers do when they're here?
Everything. um, our volunteers will unload huge trucks that have been bringing donations to us. They will um, put out the stuff on the tables that you see here. They will sort through them to get them organized so that when people come through, it's like a store and they're not having to dig through boxes or anything like that. They will carry loads of water everywhere. They'll pack bags to go to shelters or to people who are unable to get out of their houses right now. That's one thing that we've been working towards is getting to those people who are trapped. So that's really awesome. We have people working on packing those boxes. We have people working the front desk who welcome people with a smile, just to make them feel comfort and let them know that we're so glad that they're here. But when I say they do everything, I mean everything.
What do the people who are coming here to seek aid, what do you hope that their experience is like when they come?
I hope that they, this is going to sound silly, but I hope that they feel some sort of relief. And, that's what this is
Yeah.
for, anyways. But when they walk in and they've seen it, or I've seen it on their face, they're like, oh my goodness, people care. Oh my goodness, there's things for me. Like some of them get excited. I've heard a lot of them say, oh my goodness, look at all this stuff.
I think it's important to note that maybe a quarter of our population lives with food insecurity as a norm. And so it gets even worse whenever you experience the isolation and then to see and know that food's here and people are going to take care of each other. I think that's kind of mind blowing maybe.
It is, there is an abundance here. And I'm going to just give you some props as the people who designed this and like had this idea and put it together. I think by putting it all out there instead of like hiding it away and making it seem like you're hoarding it from them,
Mhm.
letting it all be open and saying sort of like take what you need, it is relief even as someone who's maybe less insecure in this moment because I've got somewhere to flee to, you know?
Mhm.
But it does my heart good to walk in and be like, oh, they're going to be okay.
Mhm. People are shocked whenever we say take what you need. They're like, "What do you mean?" Like they're honestly they're like, "What's the catch?" You know, they're waiting for me to tell them, but first you have to do this or something. So it has been really wonderful to see that they are um, genuinely relieved by seeing, okay, I'm able to get something. And really, our goal is we're hoping that they're getting a few things to help make it through the next 3 days. That's kind of our goal here. Is we're like, come get what you need, because like I said, that's where we're all at. Is we're trying to just take it day by day. And
Yeah.
so if they can come in here, get what they need for a few days, and then come back, that's what we want. Is we want to try to sustain them as much as possible and for
Yeah.
as long as possible.
Yeah. Do you find that people are very fair? It seems to me like by not putting a lot of rules around what people could take, you're kind of trusting people to take care of each other. Are you finding that that's the case?
For the most part, I think that the first day that we opened this operation, if that's what we want to call it,
Yeah.
um, the first day we opened that, we weren't really sure about that because we were nervous about people taking big old boxes of cutlery or giant gallons of bleach or something silly like that, but huge quantities. But at the end of the day, we recognize that there is the need for it, and we're here to just help them as much as possible. So my heart, the way that I'm looking at it, is that they need those items. But as far as if they're being fair, I'll say for the most part, yes, I think everyone is understanding that this whole community is devastated. And I've heard multiple people say, well, I'm not even going to fill my bag up because I'm just going to take what I need. Because we will give them a few bags and they'll be like, well, I'm not even going to use that all up because I want to make sure that other people get it. So I think that is something that's been um, inspirational to me, is that people are wanting to make sure that everyone is good. And
Yeah.
I've seen that in most of the people who do come through.
Well, and I'll be curious to see the longer you have this thing up and running, this operation, I think that is what we should call it. Those people who maybe felt insecure on the first run, felt like they had to get a lot of stuff,
Mhm.
when you're still here and you're still providing and it's not dwindling, maybe they learn to trust and maybe that brings them into community in a way that they weren't. I just want to also give you props because I think that you're providing them with not only physical safety by providing the items, but the way that you've set this up, the experience that I think people have, and the way that they're treated by you and your team when they're here, it's really creating psychological safety, which is like a whole new realm. I don't think that we've really tackled that in terms of disaster relief, much less the rest of American life. So, I've been really impressed, is all I want to say.
Well, thank you. One thing that I'll add to that is I try to smile at everyone. And that has been like a question. They're like, how are you so happy? Or how are
Yeah.
you so, why do you have so much joy or something like that? And I think that is something that I am trying to pass on to them, is because we could just lay down, everyone could just lay down and sit with the sorrow, because this is terrible. I mean, it's terrible. But I think that we have to take each other's hand and pull each other up. And the only way to do that is to grab onto the light. And right now, my light is meeting these people and making an impact in their life. And this is the way I'm doing it right now. Making sure they get fed and have some water.
Yeah. We're so lucky. So lucky to have you. How many people would you say, well, for one, how long has this been up and running? And in that time, how many people would you say you've hit? And if y'all need to coordinate on this, feel free.
Today was the end of day 2, and over the
Wait, hang on. Everything
yeah,
that I'm seeing behind me has only been here 2 days.
This hadn't been here 2 days. This got here
You
mid.
gotta say that again.
This hadn't been here 2 days. It got here midday today and got set out by our volunteers and reorganized for the next day.
Wow. So we're ending day 2 right now.
yes, this
Holy
is
moly.
the end of day 2, and we have over the past 2 days conservatively fed about 6,000 people, which is about a third of the population in
Wow.
Avery County. So
Wow. I just we're gonna wrap up because you need to get to sleep so that you can wake up and put your shoes on and be with the volunteers in the morning. I'm interested in how people get here. You mentioned earlier, and I think we're all living it right now, that the roads are really a challenge in the mountains. And not only because they're normally very windy and difficult to drive for some people, but trees are down and power lines, and we've still got flooding and roads are washing out, and there's landslides, and we could go on and on and on about how our infrastructure's gone down. Um, but yeah, what's the state of people when they get in here? Is everybody driving in? What types of people are you seeing? Is it lots of moms with kids? Is it lots of elderly people living on their own? Do you have any stories or anything, just to help paint a picture for people?
I have, over the last 2 days that we've been doing this, heard so many stories about people, how they got here, what happened to them. So people are not just driving here, they're walking here. Specifically today, I had a boy, young man, he's about 19 years old. He told me that he had walked here today from about 8 miles away in a place called Elk Park.
Mm.
It's about 700 feet in elevation lower than
Oh,
where
so
we are now.
downhill from us. So,
Yeah, so he was walking uphill. I guess would you say uphill about 8 miles to get here, but his home's gone, and he has nothing. And somehow he heard what we were doing, and he walked here, and we got him bagged up. We got him some food, and he was planning to walk back, but we asked him where he was going to go, and he was like, I don't know, I'll figure it out. And we actually took him, 2 of my volunteers drove him over to our shelter here at the Rock Gym, just where we had originally started. And so it's crazy to hear all of the stories that I've heard, but I'm willing to listen to them because I feel it's really important that they are sharing those things, because all of this has been very traumatizing. And as far as who all I've seen moms with children as young as 2 months old and a family of 6. I've seen elderly people who have walked here from their apartment. That's just down the way, because we're in a good location, because we are in town, and I feel like we are able to reach the people around us here pretty well, so they can walk to us. But we've had people all over, but then we've also been sending out teams to, again, locations where people are trapped.
Teams that she's talking about are volunteers that are coming from every which way, from the state to around the nation, who are just saying, I've got chainsaws and side by sides and I want to go cut people out and help. So
yeah, I think I'm sure that's critical in any disaster relief.
Mm-hmm.
But it really feels important now that locals are helping figure out how to help locals, because it's just such a difficult space to traverse. Here's truly my final question for you, Ari.
Okay.
I know right now it's really difficult. It's really difficult to think past the next few days. Like, you're telling people when they come in, maybe try to stock up for the next 3 days and you'll be able to come back and keep going with that. What's your vision for, say, the next 3 days of this operation? What are you working on? What do you think could be improved? Hopes, dreams, or outcomes that you're looking for?
So we definitely are hoping for some more volunteers, just to be able to give some of our volunteers some breaks. We've had people who show up at that 8, or we'll say 9 a.m., and they'll stay here till the very end, 5, and take maybe one break for 5 minutes just to
Wow.
eat something really quick. So more volunteers is definitely something I'm hoping to see. And honestly, with communications opening back up, I think that we will have that because again, I think this community, they want to support each other. So definitely more volunteers, um, more people to come get this stuff. I mean, it's for them, and we want to get it to them, and however we need to do so, we're willing to do that. So just more cooperation with the EOC as far as where do we need to go, and talking to just the people who come in. I've heard many people tell me, "Hey, my neighbor,
Mm.
she's stuck in her house because her driveway's washed away. Can I take her something?" And absolutely, we'll let you do that. Or can you tell me the address and we'll send someone out there. Um, so just more outreach as far as we want to just make sure everyone's fed and has water and just basic necessities. And that it's crazy that we're in this circumstance that they need that. But I guess my goal for that is to have more people come through here. And that might be a little overwhelming at first, but I'm happy to do it.